People talk about hitting rock bottom. That doesn't make sense, that there really truly is no rock bottom, because there's always a door that's deeper. The ultimate bottom is dying from this disease. I think people around the world, when they hear that there was a perfect childhood, they think it's impossible, it doesn't exist. I lived that, and I had that. I had the most incredible family. I had a great group of friends, and during high school, that same group of friends, we had made some poor choices. Now that I look back, I played around with drugs and alcohol, and it was more harmless at that point. I had gotten married, I went and finished college. I started an insurance business, and I was ready to take over the world. Down the road a little while, a few things had happened. I had had an injury and this nagging pain in my body, and I had ran into a friend who had introduced me to Oxycontin. And that one pill led to full-blown drug addiction. Storing drugs, moving drugs, selling drugs, transporting drugs, lying, cheating, stealing to protect the drugs. Whatever necessary to make sure that what was most precious to me wasn't jeopardized. My marriage ended. I lost my business, I lost my home, and several members of my family separated themselves from me to protect themselves. I lived in my car, I lived on the street. I, if ever scrounged up enough money, would live in a rundown hotel room. I was isolated from the entire world. One day, my friend and I, in a state that we were in, thought, okay, I have no money. I'm desperate to get high. I'll do about anything. We decided we would call the drug dealers, and when we met them, we would just rob them of what they had. So as we're chasing them around this neighborhood, my friend hit a parked car and threw me through the windshield, which caused both of my ankles to break. I was at a pretty broken state. Every vein running through my body had turned black. I weighed about 105 pounds at that time. And being as frail as I was, my friend was easily able to carry me, thankfully. But he placed me in the basement of where he was staying. And it was there where I prepared for my life to end. I was so dope sick, they call it. I was so frail and broken that I knew not only were my days limited, but my hours were very limited. It's a very sacred and personal thing to talk about, feeling your spirit attempting to leave your body while it's still there. And this is where the turning point of my life occurred. My father had awoken in the middle of the night from a dream that he had where he had been speaking at my funeral. He startled my mom when he woke up, and she asked him, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He had turned on the lights and everything, and he said, I was just speaking at Danny's funeral. The phone rings, and she answers the phone, and my brother's frantically explaining to her the exact same dream that my dad had just told her. So they knew right then and there that either Danny's gone or he's about to be taken. So they decided to go searching for me, and they had looked all day. And towards the end of the day, after they had almost given up and not been able to find me, they didn't know where they were looking. They ran into this friend at a gas station, and my brother recognized him, and he went up to ask him, "Hey, have you seen my brother?" And he ran. And he ran because of, guilt and shame. And my brother chased him down and threatened him to tell me where his brother was. So back to me on the floor, laying there staring at the ground, I see this this light, this line come across the floor as the door opens. And then I look up, there were two figures walking in the door, and it was my dad and my brother. And my dad stands above me and with just the most incredible calm says, I'm here to help. But if you're not ready, I told God that He can have you. He says, you have to do this. You have to want to do this. We can't do it for you. He stared at me for a few seconds and He actually walked away. My brother's looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Like, what are you doing? And my dad called for him and he began to walk away also. They'd got to the stairs and I can still, of all the things that are hard to remember, I can still remember seeing that light fade as the door closed. And right before it did, I mustered up enough strength to yell, help, please help. My brother came back and scooped down and picked me up in his arms. And he carried me up the stairs out to my dad's car. And they drove me up to my house so that I could give my mom a kiss. And from there, they took me up to the University of Utah, where I began my medical detox. For me, it was the simple desire to live. It started with medically detoxing, which took some time. It then took going to a treatment facility to do the hard work necessary to look inside, to take personal inventory of what's wrong, what really hurts, what are you trying to cover up. I did that, and I went to treatment for, I think, 100 days. The entire time I had all of these charges looming over my head. So I had proactively gone to save my life before going to court. I went to court, was sentenced to a year in jail. Served several months and then was let out on an ankle monitor program where I went through another program through the state. So I had to re-enter and learn how to live again, how to feel again. My entire process lasted several years. I was able to rebuild and create a relationship with my higher power. And I know who He is. And He knows who I am. So I got back everything I had lost when it comes to a home and a business. But most of all, I got to know who I was. And by going through that whole process, I was able to look in the mirror and be happy with who I saw. And I was able to find someone that I had been looking for my whole life. Someone who I loved and I admired. Through her, we have 3 beautiful children. We've had successful businesses. We live in a beautiful, quiet place. And my life today is more beautiful than I envisioned it as a boy before I went to hell and back. I am living proof that you can be found dead in a hotel room. You can be left in a basement, found on death's doorsteps by your parents, having the SWAT team kick in your house, having every vein in your body black, to living a life where you feel free, you feel happy, and that you can ultimately be the person that you always thought you could be.